It's going.
Cool. So what we were going to come talk to y'all today about is the sandwich deal. Me and Shawn were texting the other day, and then Shawn was like, sent him a bunch of ideas for podcasting. He was like, "What the hell is a sandwich deal?" And I was like, "Hey, well, let me tell you. Let's just talk about it on the podcast."
Yeah. So Branson, let's get into it. What is a sandwich deal? What is that all about? Like, how does that relate to real estate? Go ahead and let's dive into it.
Cool. So the sandwich deal essentially is when you have a deal that it's a real estate deal is always front, middle, back. So how much down, how much per month, and then how much can you sell it for on the back side, or what's your full purchase price on the back side. So like a sandwich deal, the idea of it behind it would be is, okay, a seller is gonna owner finance a property to us, and they're gonna say, hey, all right, we want 5,000 down for round numbers. Let's say we want 10,000 down, 1,000 per month, and the sales price of 100,000.
Right.
So we're going to purchase that deal from that seller, and what we have to know, that's the sandwich, is the front, middle, back.
Okay.
So what we have to know is that we can get more down than we bought it for down. We can get more per month than we got it for per month, so more than $1,000, and then we have to be able to sell it for more than $100,000.
Okay.
So let's say, if it's 10,000 down, we have to be able to sell it for 15 down. We have to be able to get, like $1,500 a month to make it worth our time, let's say. And then we have to be able to sell it for, like, let's say 120 or so.
So when you say it's $10,000, $15,000 down, are you also referring to the fact that, like, the home's value is only 5 times that down payment amount? Or, like, what would the home's value be that you're looking at?
Yeah, sometimes, but that's not like a huge factor.
Okay,
in it.
More down payment, what you get for that?
Yeah, because a lot of the times for like these owner finance deals, which is a sandwich deal in owner finance, is that you can sell the home at a higher value than what it's really worth, because these people are normally in a bad situation where they have like shitty credit or something like that, and they can't get financed.
Right. So
the idea behind it is to be able to sell it to them for 120, maybe say let's have them bring 15 or 20 down, and then they will pay us $1,500 a month while we're giving the bank or the owner $1,000 a month, and then have them refinance out in like 12 to 24 months.
Okay. So like, what is in those situations? What's your average ideal like profit range? What are you looking?
So in our company, we don't do anything less than like our average or anything. We don't do anything less than $25,000 on a deal that we're taking down, and $10,000 on a wholesale fee.
All right, and those deals, they span just a traditional wholesale length, or like how long do those deals span? Like you're looking at $25,000.
So like that's typically, like I was saying, like with an owner finance deal, we're probably looking to make more than 25 on an owner finance deal, or like a rehab. So if we're like actually taking the deal down and we're putting a bunch of like labor into it, it's taken like 90 to 120 days of our lifetime.
Right.
That's like where we're having to at least make $25,000 to be able to walk away.
Okay, because it's just so much amount of time you want the labor to be worth it.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want to be wasting our time. So.
Right. Okay, so I guess how many of those deals do you fit into a year? Maybe kind of explain to anybody who's listening and stuff, like what your dad's company does, maybe what wholesaling is a little bit more in depth, so that they can kind of understand what that is.
Yeah. So you want to know wholesaling or more in depth? I'll go more in depth about this first.
Yeah.
So like more in depth, I'm looking to do more passive income. We've been wholesaling for a while, and it's like really quick, easy cash and stuff like that. And like you can just keep on turning them over. But then at some point, like you're either gonna blow all that cash, or you're gonna be like, hey, like I need to place this cash somewhere.
Right.
So that's like kind of where you can either place your cash in that, in owner finance deals, or like rentals.
Right.
So I prefer owner finance deals because you don't have to worry about like toilets and tenants.
So you're not dealing with those like 1 a.m. phone calls where they're saying like, hey, my toilet's broken.
Yeah.
You come fix it.
Yeah.
No,
Exactly.
I definitely get that. Like a lot of the mobile home and stuff, mobile home part that I'm into and stuff. We get those calls all the time, and it's never a good phone call. It's always a headache. It's always like, hey, this pipe just busted. It's $3 grand to fix it. Like it's like, come on, like it's just those headaches constantly. So I definitely understand trying to get to the owner finance scene.
Yeah.
Something where the mobile home part that's we talked about we're trying to add and stuff.
Yeah, and I mean too, like you get money down So that lessens like the amount of money that you have into the property.
Right.
And then also, like you're saying, like they pay the taxes, they pay the insurance, they take care of the toilet, they take care of the roof. Like they actually typically they will up the value of the property while they're living in it, because you're like, oh shoot, like this is my residence now. Like actually, like we want to put equity into this property, not just kind of take it for all it's worth.
Okay. Yeah. And to me, like it's also nice because like when you do that on a finance deal, you also get like you don't. Like, you're not getting that cash, maybe as much cash flow as a month. I don't know how. I've never done one of those deals, so I don't necessarily know how it works. But from my understanding, like you get that cash up front, which gives you capital to work with.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is always nice to kind of get that relief initially.
Definitely. Let's say like we bought a property for just round numbers. Again, $20,000. Have someone bring $2,500 down, 10% of the deposit. So now you're only into the property for like $17,500. You've already gained some of that back.
Okay.
And then let's say you're getting like $500 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So 500 times 10 months out of the year, just for round numbers, let's say. 500 times 10 is $5,000, right? Yeah, $5,000, and then $6,000 for 12 months. So that's essentially you got $6,000 $6,000 back in the first year, plus that $2,500 down for your first payment. So you're almost like into the property for about half of what you have into the whole initial investment.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like the idea of it.
Right. So with those kind of properties, I guess like I forgot where I was going. But so you said your goal, like we're talking about sandwich deal stuff. How does this all relate back to the sandwich deal? Like if you're doing that in a day-to-day, like, do you do that on a day-to-day basis, or how does that work?
Yeah, so sometimes how it kind of relates is like the seller will want more for the property than like we can really pay for it in cash. So if they want more for it, we'll be like, hey, like typically we could only give you, let's say, $50,000 cash for the property, but you want $70,000.
Right.
And that's quite a bit more than 50. So we'd be like, oh well, hey, we do have this other option for you. We do have this option where we could give you $5,000 to $10,000 down, and we could give you $5,000 to $1,000 per month, or something like that, just to kind of give you an idea. And so it makes it where we can still do more deals, and then also create passive income through that.
Right. So you say passive income. What is your definition of passive income? How would you define that? Because for me, like passive income is defined as something like it's not a lot of work, but I think my definition is quite different than most people's, whereas most people think passive income means you have no work. I don't necessarily mean I don't want to work. I just mean I want generally not to work on property and to get paid for as little amount of work as possible.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, so there's passive income, and then there's passive active income, and then there's active income.
Right.
So active income is like stuff that you're working for. Like, let's say like we bought a property that we wanted to Airbnb. We're used to like an Airbnb model.
Right.
That would be like passive active income. Owning rentals just in general is passive active. Like you still, unless you really just have like a kick-ass property manager that does everything, which you're still going to get like those phone calls and they're going to be like, hey, like we got this and this going on, and, so on and so forth. My definition of real true passive income is like we have investors that invest with us that literally like will give us a check and be like, okay, hey, like here is like just on one of these deals recently, we'll be like, hey, here's $50,000 for this property. We are more active investors, so we're taking care of all the BS and like actually finding someone to occupy the house, and we're taking care of the repairs and taking care of the monthly payments and stuff. But this guy comes in and he's like, hey, here's $50,000, and we're like, all right, cool, we're gonna cash you out in 12 months. So we're gonna give him 12% on $50,000. So in a few months he's just gonna like literally be like, okay, get a notice, title company or something like that will tell us that, okay, hey, like this loan's coming due. Like, okay, sweet, like how much do we owe on the loan? All right, you owe an extra $3,000 or whatever it may be, and you got to pay Mr. Whoever for this money. And so he has no headache in between. He doesn't have to do anything. He literally gives us a check. 12 months later, he gets his money back plus some. So that's like completely passive.
Right. And so he's considered more of the passive investor. You're considered more of a
passive, active, or completely active.
Right. Okay. So, in your goal, you said you're trying to get the passive. So,
yeah,
are you trying to get the active passive? Like, because that's basically where you're at. So
we're in active passive right now, but I think like everybody's true goal is to be like on the money side of it.
Right.
Like where you can just like where I could come up to you, Shawn, and just be like, hey, like here's $1 million, like go make $2 million with it, and I only want like 10% of that or something like that. Like that's everyone's true goal.
Yeah, that'd definitely be the goal, is just essentially become a bank. Right?
Yeah, so, for sure.
You know, that would be ideal, but like, how do you? I guess for someone like me who's just starting out, more so than you, how do you get to that point? Like, because I have one single family house that we're just closing on and we're just trying to get started on, and then we have the mobile home part, which we kind of inherited to some degree. But so like how do you scale up from there? Like you just use the equity, like you just save up cash? Because like right now I work a regular 9-to-5 job and then invest on the side. So like trying to get to more of just an active passive investor versus being just a on the side investor.
Yeah, so I think a really like the biggest goal, the easiest step forward to take with that, and I think I was telling you this the other night, was find private investors.
Right.
Find people that do have money and they just want to earn money passively. Like people that really like people are gonna invest with Shawn because they like Shawn. Like they trust in Shawn. Like they know if they give Shawn $100,000 that he will go work at McDonald's to pay that loan back. Like if that's what it takes.
So what have I found the best? Like the type of investors that I've found lately have been people with like 50 grand, 20 grand. Like they don't have like a crazy amount to throw at something, but they have enough to possibly like a down payment, and then we could acquire financing. In those situations, do you acquire the rest of the financing yourself? Do you bring in other investors? And in which case, how are you making money at that point? There's just so many people involved.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like so many people involved. Like, what kind of percentage are your people looking for that have like 50 to 20% down? Like,
most of them want to just do better than the stock market, so about 6%.
Yeah. So like that's insane. Like if they only want 6% on their money, like we can work with that all day.
Right.
There's like the kind of market that we're in here in Florida right now. It is like stupid hot, so it's kind of insane to find a property for like $20,000 right now. Like vacant land is going for $20,000 right now.
Oh, it's absurd.
Yeah, it's insane. Literally like 18 months ago, like you couldn't sell a piece of vacant land for 20 grand, and now you can't find one for 20 grand.
Like, do you think we're headed towards a period where it's going to be cheaper again, like because of the market crash?
I think we're still headed up. I think that we got a ways to go up before we come back down. Like it's still going up.
What indications give you that? Like, why do you think that?
One, because of the election coming up, and two, like we had like this stupid like virus hit and everything like that. I mean, stupid virus, but all the stuff that came with the virus was stupid. Like, was shutting everything down.
Right.
And so, within that being said, like this virus came, shut everything down, and home sales and prices are like still skyrocketing. So I don't really foresee, if that didn't affect it that much, I don't really see much else that would affect it coming in the future, like very short term.
Right. I guess the only thing that I see for coming is a period of almost hyperinflation is what I predict, just based on my analysis. Like, to me, the situation that's rising with the U.S. economy and the global economy reminds me a lot of what happened with Germany prior to World War. I forgot which one it was. 1, 2?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
One of them.
Yeah, one of the wars. But it reminds me of that situation where like Germany was doing really well, but then when their economy tanked, like their money became worth nothing, and the value of their currency just went to zero. And so like you saw like it was like 80,000 francs was like would buy you a block of wood or a piece of bread or something, and then in Zimbabwe when inflation hit like several hundred thousand, it was absurd. Like 100 million Zimbabwe bucks would buy you, you know, a piece of bread, a Starburst, whatever they have there. I'm not sure. Rice, I don't know. Like, but so like those situations kind of that are arising remind me a lot of what happened here in the economy in the U.S., where the government's printing a lot of money, They're throwing, like those stimulus checks and
The
stuff.
dollar's so devalued right now.
Oh, right, and there's nothing backing the dollar. There's no gold standard anymore. Like when it was taken off by 1938 or 78, whichever year it was. I'm not sure if that's close, but it was when it was taken off the gold standard. Like why? There's nothing backing the dollar after that point. So at this point, it's all perceived value. It's imaginary, basically imaginary value, just perceptive value.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
I mean, like, I just know, like, some small things. Like, I look on Facebook Marketplace because I'm, like, I love junk. Like, I don't buy my tires new. I'll go on Facebook Marketplace and find, like, a set that someone rode on for, like, 1,000, 5,000 miles, and they're willing to sell them for, like, half the price or something like that.
Is that how you got your 38?
Yeah, it is.
Okay,
exactly.
No.
Yeah, so, like, for my 38s, I went and bought 35s. And then bought them for $250 and ended up trading up to some 38s that someone else didn't want.
Right.
And he paid for like the swap and everything. Like, so you were able to kind of make good trades. But now that so many people have money, it's like the dollar is so like no one's like the redneck with a small penis pass.
Yeah, the guy showing off is gonna pass the car. Pass this real quick.
One sec. All right, we're good.
You might rev it up one more time. I bet. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Good job, man.
So, as the dollar devalues, like, people aren't really, like, in need for money anymore because people don't have to work for money. So, like, everyone's losing their job. Right. And people are making more than they did before they lost their job. Like, I know, like, let's say someone was working in healthcare and they got fired. Now the government just like prints them a check, prints them money every month.
Right.
And they have all this free time on top of this and just get a check every month and like don't have to go back to work for it. And two, they make it now where you don't have to like reapply for this stuff like weekly.
Right.
Which is insane.
So like at that point, are you even having to prove that you have a job? Like
you don't have to prove that you're looking for a job.
Okay, so that to me is a little messed up.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's super messed up.
Forgive my French, but that's just fucked. Like like why would you? I don't know. To me, the system is just very flawed at this point. Like, there's so many things that need to be fixed, and I don't know. Back to what we were saying, though. Like, I do think that all the stuff that's happening is going to cause a hyperinflation period, cause the dollar to inflate. Which, since everyone else in the world's economy is based off the United States, to some degree, generally, like if you look at trade routes throughout the world, the United States or China are generally involved in the trade routes. Well, China's economy is generally based off the U.S. economy, so hand in hand, they're all intertwined and they all go back to the U.S. economy. So if the U.S. dollar fails and goes through a period of hyperinflation like Zimbabwe or Germany, what happens to the world economy at that point? Like, what is the devastation and how far does that reach go?
Yeah.
To me, like that, I think that's something that's kind of unprecedented and that hasn't been seen yet, and that's kind of a level of financial crisis that the world would yet to see that might be arising. But again, that's just my prediction.
Yeah.
So I think.
I don't think that it's not going to come. I just don't think it's going to happen as soon as we think it is.
I can see that. The only reason I could differ with that is because of the amount of technology that's available and how quickly things are able to change. Like in the month of was it March or May, when the stock market tanked.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, how fast did that tank? A day?
Couple
days? Like.
And it's crazy though too, like it tanked super quick, but then I think it was, I mean, don't even quote me on all this stuff because I'm not like super into all this.
Oh, by any means, never mind.
But yeah, like a couple months back, or a couple weeks back I think it was, it hit like an all-time high.
Right.
Which was like insane, like in this pandemic, and when like businesses and everything like that are shut down, like the U.S. stock market like hit like this crazy high.
Right. I guess. To me, the only thing is the stock market is not generally a direct indicator of what the actual U.S. economy is doing.
Oh, most definitely.
And generally it's slow to respond to the U.S. economy. So, like, to me, like, that correction that happened may or may not have been because of coronavirus. Like, yes, it might have been because of initial fear and whatever with investors and they pulled out, caused them to drop, whatever it may be. But I think we're going to see a huge drop-off in the market coming up, especially a lot of foreclosures I think are going to pop up, because right now you're seeing a lot of mortgage forbearance and a lot of mortgage forgiveness. Like, I know the trailer park, we aren't paying our mortgage right now. We don't have to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, why would we? We got 3 months where we don't have to. We're not getting that much rent. Mm-hmm. So, let's forbear it for a little bit.
Yeah. Let's hold that capital just for another rainy day.
Right, like, I mean, we have people, I don't know if you know about this, but in Tennessee they have a rule right now where the governor basically said we're not allowed to evict anybody. due to the coronavirus and stuff. And well, because we can't evict anybody, a lot of people see that as a area where they don't have to pay their rent.
Mm-hmm.
Not understanding we're going to evict you at the end of this period if you don't catch it back up. But you know, I don't know. I could just see a lot of things happening where there's going to be a big shift in the economy, which for me personally is a good thing because that means real estate's going to be cheap and I get to pick things up for cheap. So
yeah, for sure.
Being a new investor, I like that.
For sure, yeah. I mean, that's what I'm kind of like. I'm really hopeful that it drops back down. When I actually started wholesaling, so kind of going back to wholesaling, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, let's circle back real quick.
Let's circle back to wholesaling.
Yeah, sorry about that. We got a little off.
Short intermission. So I got into wholesaling when I was around like 17, 18 years old, and what wholesaling is essentially is like, let's say Shawn wants to sell me like this phone. Shawn's gonna sell me this phone for $100. And I know a guy around the corner that's going to pay $150 for it. But let's picture this as an actual house. So I'm going to get a contract on this house for $100, and then I'm going to go around the corner and then take an assignment contract and say, hey, you can buy my rights to this contract to purchase this house for $50. And so they're going to purchase this contract and then purchase the house through that contract. But then it all wraps around in one closing and everyone gets paid at the same time. Or, you know, the person Luke that's bringing the $150, he is going to give out $150, I'm going to get $50, and then Shawn's going to get his $100 for it, just to put it in simple terms. So that's kind of like the short gist of what wholesaling is. I got into that quite some time ago when I was like 17, 18.
And who introduced you to that?
So I was actually only when I was 17, that's when I bought my first property. I was only really introduced to like traditional investing.
At 17 though, how'd you buy your first property? Because generally you have that credit, not a lot of credit to you when you're 18, unless you build it by co-signing with somebody while you're younger, or someone built credit for you. But so how'd you do it?
Yeah, so I mean, it really wasn't a very expensive property. My dad, he's been in real estate for a long time before that, probably like 15 years or so, and he actually had these people that were selling off tax deed properties.
Right.
So I actually picked up this property off a tax deed for like $3,000. Ended up having to put like an extra $2,000 into it for the quiet title and everything like that, like $2,000 to $3,000.
Right. And just land? Or like
just like a vacant acre.
Okay.
So found a buyer. The buyer ended up coming to me and then paying like $8,000 for it. We were actually riding by the property the other day.
Oh, that one you were talking about by Joel's house?
Yeah, exactly. So I had found this property and
there's some horses out here, guys.
So I found someone to purchase this property for $8,000. I'd actually sold off like all my belongings. Another fan.
Yeah, what up?
So I had found this property, sold all my belongings off. Sold all my belongings off. Like my truck, I had wheels and tires on my vehicle. I sold those off separately. I had a 4-wheeler and accumulated about like $4,000 to $5,000. I mean, you get me, like my vehicle and shit like that was like shitty. And like,
so you were like shelling together money to pull this deal together.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I didn't have a vehicle to drive for like a few months and stuff
so you made some sacrifices.
Yeah, definitely. I was trying to like make this real estate thing work.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of where Seth is trying to get, I guess. So. Yeah. For those of you who don't know, Seth's here. Seth's my brother.
Seth is like our Jamie to Joe Rogan. So
yeah. So we're gonna copy his business model for a little bit.
Yeah. So sold everything, bought this property, found someone to purchase it, and learned a few hard lessons. Ended up closing on it like 6 to 8 months later. Only made like $2,000. So that was probably like less than literally like $150, $200 a month. So it was a very hard lesson. Had to go through some stuff. I didn't really work through this time.
Why was it a hard lesson?
Because I let the buyer control the deal. Like, he came in, I should have just been like, hey, no, like, we're just going to sell it on a quit claim deed, and you're going to give me the $8,000 and walk away. We're not going to go through title. We're not going to do all this stuff. Right. And so, like, it took a lot more money out of my pocket than I wanted it to. And
could you have negotiated better to where you could have said, like, hey, I'm not paying for that, you're going to pay for that?
Yeah, exactly.
And was that just like a lack of confidence in yourself being so young?
I just didn't know. So like it was some hard lessons that I had to learn.
And did you do this deal by yourself, or did your dad kind of walk you through this?
He walked me through it a little bit, but he was like really prominent. Like my dad has really always been like prominent on being like, hey, like you're gonna have to learn this stuff yourself, dude. Like,
oh yeah, no, the couple times I've talked to him, well, a couple times I talked to him every couple days, but when I talk to him, it's always like I'll ask him questions, and the way I'm used to receiving lessons is very like, do this, do this, do this, and your dad's very much like, here's kind of what you're gonna do. You're gonna look up how to do the individual steps.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
To me, it's been a very rough transition to kind of learn from that, but I like change.
Yeah, for sure.
It makes me actually learn the shit. So
yeah, you'll learn it instead of him just kind of like telling you, which works out a lot of the time.
Right.
But so I kind of had to like learn some hard lessons through that, learn what to do, what not to do, and then I had actually flipped some pieces of land with a mentor of mine. So my dad paid for this mastermind, and we went down to West Palm and went through this mastermind.
What is a mastermind? Because I don't even know. So
yeah. So a mastermind, what a mastermind is where like a mentor will put on like this training for like a day or two, and like kind of come in and maybe open up his business doors or something like that, and bring like a bunch of like like-minded people together that want to level up.
Right.
So he brought in like my dad and other business owners that wanted to go to the next level, that wanted to learn how to grow their real estate business.
And just curious, how much do these cost?
This one cost, I think it was like $5,000. Yeah, so like $5,000 for like 2 days.
Okay, yeah, damn, that's a lot to me.
Yeah, exactly. And so like it's an investment in yourself.
It is
for sure.
I mean, it's definitely got to be seen that way. I've been trying to realize that lately, but it's been a hard transition into realizing like, hey, I'm spending money into this just because it's not an immediate return doesn't mean I'm not gaining something from it.
Yeah, a lot of these things are like infinite returns. Like,
right.
You can never actually gauge how much like you're gonna make from this stuff.
Right. Well, like to me, like if I had never picked up like Bigger Pockets, like I don't know if you ever watched any of their stuff or listened to them, but I love Brandon Turner. Like he was the one who kind of got me interested, like really solidified my interest in it, aside from my father. And he like I don't know, like his stuff is just amazing. Like I love listening to his material and all this weird stuff. I don't know, he's just kind of really got me started.
Yeah. So I popped off like that deal by myself. Then that guy that I met that my dad took me to the mastermind with, Mark Evans, we popped off like 3 or 4 land deals or something like that. Then I actually ended up taking one of the profits from those land deals and ended up investing it in, it was like a $5,000 profit, and took that and ended up putting it into a mastermind with him. We flew up on like a private jet up to Columbus, Ohio, and then I ended up meeting my business partner that I had for like 2 to 3 years up in Cleveland, and that was actually like my roommate in Cleveland last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is he still your business partner? You guys still do anything together? Or no?
We do, no, not really, not right now. It's kind of like growing apart. We do separate things now. I was doing deals up there, but it kind of ended up not being really worth my time much more because of how much that I can make off a deal like locally in Florida. The margins in Florida are so big. The competition, like in the big city, like people will come to where there was not much competition in the hood where we were doing business. We could pop off like $7,500 deals like on the regular that we were splitting, and then people kind of catch on to it, and since everyone's in it, then like kind of what when you were saying like wholesaling's dead the other day, I think that's what you were saying.
Oh yeah, I mean I don't think that personally. I just
yeah,
saw a
but you
commercial.
heard that.
Yeah, I just heard a commercial about it being dead.
So like why they say that is because there's so many people getting into wholesaling, and like if you don't know, and like you're just getting into wholesaling, you may come in and make a $150,000 offer on a property that you think is maybe worth $200,000, and like think that you got a good deal, but it might not really be a good deal, and so it kind of like saturates the market and gives all like these people like false hope. They're like, oh, why would I go with your $80,000 offer? I have someone over here, I have Shawn over here for $150,000.
Right.
And like the real investors, it kind of like saturates us out.
Do you see that ever changing or dying out, or is that just kind of how it is, the nature of the beast? You know?
I think that once like people have to go back and kind of get like a 9 to 5, some people will probably lose hope. A lot of people have like a lot of extra free time right now, like not much to do. So I mean, hopefully it does die out. But I mean, I think wholesaling will always be there for sure.
I mean, I definitely see it always being there. My hope is, I guess, just that the market becomes less saturated and competition dies out. Like, I know that's kind of a bad hope to want. Like, I like competing and I enjoy competition, but at the end of the day, it'd be nice to be able to kind of grab some deals without constantly having, like, okay, this one got taken out.
Well, the problem is it's like not real competition.
Right. You know, that's... How often do you experience that with you and your dad? Like, you guys get that a lot?
We honestly don't get that much around here, and that's why I like it around here. It's like kind of like a more rural market. There's not really that much competition per se around here.
But yeah, it seems like wholesaling is very, like, even in Lake City, like, there's like maybe one or two people who do like flips, and there's a couple of people that I know who maybe are trying to do wholesaling. There's one person who does it actually, but like, I mean, there's just around here it's almost unheard of. But it could just be partial because where we are located, the backgrounds of the people around here kind of come from, and it's just not really a well-known topic. Most people kind of think it's kind of a pipe dream anyways.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of lazy people around here for sure.
Yeah. And it definitely takes some work. That's one thing I've realized. Like, it is easy, but it does take work. Especially learning the materials, the hardest part to me. Like, you're just sitting there and it's like, I don't know, I sit there and I analyze a deal and I'm looking at one deal and then like I get to a number and it's like, okay, what do you do next? It's like, well, now I gotta figure it out, and I don't know, it's just like, it's a constant learning process, so it's kind of, it's been fun, but it's been very difficult, challenging, to say the least.
Yeah, like doing like a deal or two, or whatever, like per month is kind of like easy. For us now, like where it comes in now is like the more difficult part is scaling that. So like, how do we get to doing like 10 deals per month? How do we get to doing 20 deals per month after that? Like, how can we do, 100 deals per year? How do we do 300 deals per year? Like, that's like the real hard part about it for us.
Yeah, see, that's insane to me to hear, because like to me it's like, okay, well, how do I get to 2? Once I get to 2, okay, well, maybe I have 2 or 3 units at that point. How do I get to 3 or 4? And at that point, once you get 4, 5, 6, then it becomes a little bit easier to scale. But like doing deals and stuff, like 2 a month, like to me, that's like, how many leads are you sending out a month? Like, how many people are you contacting every day to try to get that many deals coming through? And you guys have a name you built for yourself, and you guys have a business coming through constantly.
So yeah, what we've recognized a lot lately is that a lot of our business kind of comes in. Wait for the semi to pass. So a lot of the things that I've recognized lately is like we're kind of tracking it back to see where our deals are coming from, and they're coming from like pretty much word of mouth. So we popped off like a few pretty cool deals that we closed on. We closed on one the other day. We got a house for like $100,000. Probably needs like $15,000 to $20,000 in work.
Yeah, the one that I think your dad drove me by. It's got like a horse farm on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a nice property. That was a crazy deal.
Yeah.
If we're gonna make like $100,000 on this property, I'm like,
exactly. Yeah. And so that came like off a website lead, like awkwardly enough.
Yeah, that was the same part for me to hear about it. It was like someone just reached out to you and heard about you. It was like, okay, that's the point where I'm trying to get. Like, I want people coming to me where I'm having to reach out to people less, or at least pay him something, make him do it.
Yeah. And then so like there's those. That's kind of like all of this stuff has been coming off like word of mouth. We got this farm that we're gonna pop off, and we got it for like a damn good deal, and like it'll be like another $100,000, more than $100,000 deal most likely. And so we're just like, I'm trying to kind of shift our mentality to doing like higher end or like more profitable deals, but maybe doing like a little bit less deals. So that's kind of like an idea of things. What I was going to go back to earlier, to kind of help these people out, maybe where you can get started in wholesaling. My first deal that I ever got was where I'd put some Facebook ads out, and I mean, Facebook may kind of be like a little bit more saturated for it now, but I'd kind of like hammered a couple groups, put like pictures of like these hideous mobile homes or like some ridiculous picture, and be like, hey, if you have a house that you're looking to sell, contact me. And these people had reached out, they're like, hey, so-and-so wants to sell. I had found like 5 acres, and there was like 6 acres in this house. Got it under contract. This guy had like a $6,500 lien on it. Got it under contract for like $11,500, give or take. Ended up selling this property for like $25,000. I pocketed more than the seller did. I was a little pissed, but that's how I did my first deal, and like that was really profitable. And so now we've kind of moved into more stuff, like did some direct mail, handwritten letters work really well. If you're looking to get started in wholesaling, start driving for dollars. This is what I've been telling Shawn.
Yeah.
Drive for dollars. Either then look up the owner's name and info through the property appraiser's website or your county records. Then reach out to them, maybe send them a letter, skip trace their name, like just search their name up on Google and find a phone number for them. Call them, be like, hey, you know, I noticed your property over there. Maybe, hey, are you interested in selling it? Kind of looks like a shithole. And so, like, do any of these methods. Don't be scared to do it. Shawn had just messaged me the other day. He was like, hey, what'd you say? You're like, hey, I found this number. Or like, are these even good numbers? And I was like, yes, call them.
Yeah,
like,
no, I was looking at a property in our neighborhood around where Seth and I live, and we were kind of driving for dollars. It was more of just driving around, and we were kind of hoping to find a property. And so we came in this neighborhood where it's mostly like $1 million mansions, where very wealthy people in the town kind of live. And in the back end of the neighborhood, there's this house that looks just, it's not run down like crazy, but you can tell nobody lives there, and you can tell like it's just not as upkept as every other house in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so like Seth and I, we were like, okay, like this is a little bit of a long shot just based on where we're at, but let's look up the property and kind of see what it's about. And so we looked at the property, found out the owner does not live there. Property is vacant. They tried to sell it 2 times within the last couple of years, were unsuccessful. And I mean, honestly, it was probably a pretty good little house. They had it tax assessed at about maybe about 90 grand. And from what Seth and I were looking at, we probably thought it could probably sell for maybe 150. Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell with the area, just by where it's at. Probably about 150.
Yeah.
That's where the market's at to be sold today. And so we're like, shoot, if we even got it for 70, we'd probably be pretty good.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're looking at now. We were about to reach out to them, probably going to reach out to them this weekend, do a little more driving for dollars, try to get out there. We're going to drink a little heavy tonight, so you know all about that.
That's the most important part.
Yeah, we're going to drink a little bit tonight, have some fun, enjoy the week. We've kind of all worked hard and earned it, but
yeah. Another thing that Shawn said too, he was like, it kind of looks like the worst house in the best neighborhood. Yeah, so that's like really important. Like, don't go driving around in the hood and be looking for like a bunch of shitty houses. Even though like you can wholesale those, like the easiest way to wholesale a really good deal is to find a really junky house in like a really good area. Like, it will not be a problem finding a buyer for a bad house in a great area.
Right. Yeah. So to kind of go to your point though, like I have a situation that's kind of the exact opposite. The first house that we've bought, it's the property that we're closing on hopefully next week. Hopefully, fingers crossed. It's been going on for like 60 days now, maybe. Yeah. So it's been the longest closing in the world. The coronavirus has not helped this closing. It has extended it so drastically, and partially my own fault too. But about this deal, like we kind of go back to what you're saying. Like location definitely really matters. It is a huge deal. Like a big problem with the house that Seth and I are closing on is that it's the nicest house in the neighborhood, and so every other house around it, no matter what we do to ours, we can only bring our property up to a certain value, and so that drastically limits kind of what we can take advantage of and what we can do with the property. And so in all reality, the property is going to stay as is, and we're just going to rent it and keep up with it. So, but that's partially because of the deal we did. I'm going to wait for him to go by, but
short intermission.
Yeah, just a quick little break just so I can gather my thoughts. No, that deal is would be an incredibly hard deal to wholesale for how we bought it. Like maybe you got it for less, but for what we got it for, which was under market value, and we have about 40 grand of equity built up. But you can't. It'd be hard to take advantage of that based on the location.
Yeah.
Again, back to what he was saying, location is incredibly important. Make sure that's a priority. And worst house in the best neighborhood is always better than best house in the worst neighborhood. That's not the situation we want to be in, and Seth and I are going to have some trouble getting out of it in a couple of years, but hopefully everyone else just improves. That's all I'm hoping for, just praying. Like,
that's hilarious.
Oh,
well, cool. I think we're about ready to wrap up.
Yeah,
I hope this was really valuable information for y'all.
Yeah.
Hit us up on email, maybe drop a comment on this YouTube video or on this video or anything like that. Ask us questions, maybe things that we could help you with. Maybe it's knowledge that we don't know. Maybe it's knowledge that we do know. And if we don't know, we can reach out to other people that would actually help us with it, because I get a lot of mentors and stuff like that know a lot more than me.
Oh yeah, mentors are incredibly important, but for sure, thank you guys for bearing with us on this one. We know we're kind of new at it and kind of got off track here and there, but work with us as we kind of develop this process and become better at it. But we appreciate you tuning in and kind of checking us out. But thanks.
Peace.